The smoke rises through the roof hole, merging with the morning mist that clings to the valley. Inside the longhouse in the darkness before dawn, a woman's labor pains begin. The birth is coming. Outside, the settlement stirs. Warriors sharpen blades, children sleep beneath fur blankets, traders count their silver. But in this moment, in this small chamber separated by hanging wool curtains, a new life prepares to enter the world of the Norse. This is where every Viking's journey begins, not in battle, not on longships cutting through northern seas, but here, in blood and firelight, in pain and hope. The life that begins this morning will follow a path as old as the gods themselves, a road mapped by tradition, shaped by fate, and ending, if the gods are kind, in the golden halls of Valhalla. For the next 2 hours we will walk this complete journey. We will witness the moment a Norse child takes their first breath, feel the water of their naming ceremony, hear their first sword strike against a practice shield. We will sail with them on their first raid, stand beside them at their wedding, watch them age into wisdom or fall in battle. We will follow this life from the warmth of the mother's body to the cold embrace of the burial mound, or perhaps, if fate smiles, to the eternal feast in Odin's hall. This is not the story of kings or legendary heroes whose names echo through the sagas. This is the story of an ordinary life, multiplied 10,000 times across the Norse world. This is the pattern, the cycle, the way of the people who called themselves simply the folk, the men and women who farmed and fought, who loved and lost, who believed their fate was woven by 3 women at the base of the world tree, and who lived every day knowing that death in battle was not an end, but a beginning. The world into which our child will be born is harsh and beautiful in equal measure. We are in Norway, in the year 875 of the Common Era. The land is a realm of contrasts, fjords cutting deep into mountains like the wounds of giants, forests so thick that noon feels like twilight, winters that lock the earth in ice for months, and summers when the sun barely sets at all. The Norse people who inhabit this land are farmers first, warriors second. They do not call themselves Vikings. That word describes an activity, not a people. To go Viking means to go raiding, to seek fortune across the seas. But most of the folk spend most of their lives with their hands in soil, not wrapped around sword hilts. They grow barley and oats in the short summer. They tend cattle, sheep, and pigs. They fish the cold waters and hunt the deep forests. Their society is organized into 3 main classes, though the boundaries are not absolute. At the top are the jarls, the earls, the wealthy landowners who can afford armed retainers and who lead raids across the sea. In the middle are the carls, the free farmers who own their land and have the right to speak at the thing, the assembly where disputes are settled and laws are made. At the bottom are the thralls, slaves taken in raids or born into bondage, who have no rights and are counted as property like cattle or sheep. Our child will be born into a carl family, not wealthy, but free. Their father owns his farm, though it is small, perhaps 30 acres of workable land carved from the forest, with pasture for 12 sheep, a few pigs, some chickens. Their mother comes from a similar family 3 valleys away. It was a good match, approved by both families, with a bride price paid in silver arm rings and 3 good milk cows. The gods are real to these people. Not metaphors or distant abstractions, but active forces in the world. Odin the All-Father watches from his high seat, seeing all that happens in the 9 worlds. Thor protects the common folk with his hammer, fighting the giants who would bring chaos. Freya governs love and fertility, but also claims half of those who die in battle. The Norns, 3 women named Urd, Verdandi, and Skuld, weave the fates of all things at the base of Yggdrasil, the world tree that connects all realms. Fate, weird as they call it, is not a prison, but neither is it entirely escapable. A person's deeds matter, their courage matters, their honor matters. But the thread of their life has a certain length, woven before they are born, and when it is cut, no amount of bravery can extend it. The best one can do is live well, die bravely, and be remembered in stories. Magic, too, is part of their world. Seda practitioners, usually women, sometimes men, can see the future, cast curses, call spirits. Runes are not merely letters, but symbols of power. A skilled rune master can carve protection, healing, or harm into wood, stone, or metal. The boundary between the natural and supernatural is thin here, easily crossed. The settlement where our story begins holds perhaps 200 souls, a dozen longhouses, a communal building for gatherings and feasts, workshops for the blacksmith and the carpenter, animal pens, storage buildings raised on posts to keep grain from rats. A wooden palisade surrounds it all, not enough to stop a determined army, but sufficient to slow raiders and deter wolves. The longhouse is the center of life. Our family's is perhaps 60 feet long and 20 feet wide, built of timber with a turf roof that keeps out rain and holds in heat. The walls lean slightly inward, so snow slides off the roof rather than building up dangerously. Inside, the space is divided into 3 sections: living quarters at one end, storage at the other, and a central common area with the hearth. This is a world without privacy as we understand it. The family sleeps together. Servants sleep on benches or the floor. Guests are welcomed and fed because hospitality is sacred, and because you never know when you might need shelter in another's hall. Children grow up seeing all aspects of life: birth, death, sex, violence, joy, sorrow. Nothing is hidden behind closed doors, because there are no doors, only curtains and screens. Women in this society have more power than they will have in many later European cultures. They cannot be warriors or speak at the thing, but they control the household, manage the farm when men are raiding or trading, own property in their own right, and can divorce an unsatisfactory husband by the simple act of declaring the marriage ended before witnesses. A woman's honor is fiercely guarded. To insult a woman is to invite a blood feud. To rape is to earn outlawry or death. Men prove themselves through bravery, generosity, and skill. A man's worth is measured in rings, the silver arm rings he can give to his followers and friends, symbols of wealth shared. A stingy man, no matter how rich, is despised. A generous man, even if poor, earns respect. Physical courage is expected. To show fear is shameful, but cleverness is valued too. The Norse love a good trick, a clever solution, a well-crafted insult delivered in verse. Children are raised communally but firmly. They begin work young, watching sheep, collecting eggs, helping with planting. By 7 or 8, boys begin learning weaponcraft, though most will never fight in a shield wall. Girls learn weaving, cooking, household management, the herbs that heal and the herbs that harm. Childhood is brief. By 14 or 15, most are considered ready for marriage, for adult work, for adult responsibilities. Into this world, on this cold morning, as winter begins to release its grip on the land, our child is about to be born. The mother's labor has been progressing through the night. The midwife was summoned when the pains began in earnest, an older woman, grandmother of 7, who has guided perhaps 100 births, who knows the herbs that ease pain and the prayers that call on Freya's blessing. The father waits outside the birthing chamber. This is women's work, women's mystery. He has offered to the gods, placing bread and ale at the household altar, asking for his wife's safety, for a healthy child. He has his preference. Every man wants sons to carry on his name, to work his land, to avenge him if he is slain, but he will accept what the Norns have woven. A healthy daughter is better than a dead son. The child emerges into firelight and women's hands. The midwife catches the infant, checks that the cord is not wrapped dangerously, uses a bronze knife to cut the connection to the mother. The baby's first cry fills the chamber, not the lusty wail of easy breath, but the smaller, gasping sound of lungs learning their purpose. The midwife clears the mouth and nose, rubs the small body vigorously with cloth to stimulate breathing. For a few heartbeats, the outcome hangs uncertain. Then the cry strengthens. The baby draws a full breath and releases it in protest at the cold, the light, the shocking transition from water to air. The midwife smiles. This one will live. A boy, she announces. The mother, exhausted, manages a smile. The father, hearing the news through the curtain, allows himself to show his pleasure. A son. The farm will have an heir. But the child is not yet part of the family, not yet named, not yet claimed by the father. In Norse custom, a newborn is placed on the ground immediately after birth, and the father must pick up the child to accept it into the family. Until this moment, the infant is not quite human, not quite a person. If the father does not lift the child, if the baby is deformed, if the family is too poor to feed another mouth, if the father has doubts about paternity, the child can be exposed, left outside to die of cold, or be taken by animals. It is a harsh custom, born of a harsh land where resources are limited and winter is long, but it is the way of the folk. The midwife carries the cleaned infant to the father. She places the baby on the earthen floor just outside the birthing chamber. The household waits. The father looks down at his son. The child is healthy, all limbs present, no obvious defects, breathing well. He bends and lifts the baby. "I claim this child," he says formally. "He is of my blood, of my family. He will bear a name and inherit my honor." The household releases a collective breath. The grandmother begins to cry with relief and joy. Siblings crowd closer to see the new baby. The mother, hearing the words through the curtain, closes her eyes and thanks Freya. But the child is still not named. That ceremony comes later, usually 9 days after birth. 9 is a sacred number. Odin hung on the world tree for 9 days to gain the knowledge of runes. The waiting period serves a practical purpose too. Many infants die in the first week. Better to wait to see if the child will thrive before giving a name that will be remembered. The next 9 days are careful ones. The mother rests, recovering her strength, eating rich foods to restore her blood and make good milk. The baby is kept warm by the fire, nursed frequently, watched constantly. The midwife visits daily, checking for fever, for problems with feeding, for any sign of sickness. The household functions around the new life. The father returns to his work, repairing tools, planning the spring planting, checking on animals. The older children take on extra chores so their mother can rest. Neighbors bring gifts of food and well wishes. A new baby is cause for celebration, hope for the future, proof that life continues despite the hard winters and the uncertain seas. On the 9th night, the family prepares for the naming ceremony. Water is drawn from the stream and blessed with prayers. The father chooses the name carefully. He might name the son after his own father, honoring the ancestor. He might choose a name that combines elements of power: Bjorn for bear, Ulf for wolf, Stein for stone, hoping the child will embody those qualities. He decides on Bjorn, bear. The child had a strong grip even at birth, and the father hopes he will grow into a bear's strength and courage. The family gathers outside beneath the stars. The northern lights dance green and pale across the sky, the Bifrost, the rainbow bridge to Asgard, the realm of the gods. The father holds his son and speaks the name clearly. Bjorn Thorvaldsson. Bjorn, son of Thorvald. He sprinkles the blessed water on the baby's head. The child is now named, now a person, now part of the family, part of the community, part of the world. The household returns inside to feast. Neighbors have been invited. There is roasted pork, fresh bread, ale and mead. The father gives gifts: a silver brooch to the midwife, an arm ring to his wife's father, smaller gifts to those who helped during the birth and the waiting days. Generosity cements bonds. A feast creates obligation and alliance. The baby sleeps through most of it, warm in a cradle near the fire. His mother holds him when he wakes to nurse, receiving congratulations and admiration from the gathered women. The men drink and tell stories, including the father in the bonds of community, reminding him he is not alone in raising this son. This is the first of many feasts that will mark Bjorn's life. The Norse mark transitions with ceremony and celebration. Birth, coming of age, marriage, death, each has its rituals, its proper observances. Life is lived in public, witnessed by the community, bound by shared custom and shared belief. The first years of Bjorn's life are spent close to his mother. He nurses for 2 or 3 years, as is common. He sleeps in her arms or in a cradle by the fire. He learns the sounds of the household, the crackle of flames, the bleat of sheep, the clang of the smith's hammer, the voices of his family telling stories around the hearth on winter nights. As he grows from infant to toddler, his world expands. He learns to walk on the packed earth floor of the longhouse, steadied by his mother's hands. He begins to explore, touching the rough timber walls, reaching for the fire until he learns it burns, pulling at his father's beard, playing with simple wooden toys carved by his grandfather. Language comes gradually. First mama and papa, then simple words for food, for animals, for family members. The Norse language he learns is rich in words for snow, for ice, for different kinds of cold. It has elaborate vocabulary for honor and shame, for kinship and feuding, for the sea and ships. The language shapes how he thinks, what he values, how he understands the world. By age 3, Bjorn is helping with simple tasks. He scatters grain for the chickens, learns to be gentle with the new lambs, carries small items from one place to another. Work is not separate from play at this age. Helping feels like a game, like being included in the adult world he longs to join. His father begins teaching him things: how to recognize the marks carved on their property boundaries, how to count, necessary for tallying sheep and measuring grain, how to show respect to elders with proper greetings, how to hold a knife safely while carving a stick. His mother teaches him too. The names of herbs growing in her garden, which mushrooms are safe to eat, how to sit quietly when adults are speaking of important matters, the stories of the gods, how the world was made from the body of Ymir, the first giant, how Thor fished for the world serpent, how Loki's tricks brought both blessing and curse to gods and men. The turning point from early childhood to youth comes around age 7. For boys, this is when serious training begins. No longer can Bjorn simply play at being a man. Now he must learn the skills that will define his life. His father gives him his first real knife, not a toy, but a working tool with a sharp edge. A blade is a responsibility, Thorvald tells him. It can provide food, build shelter, defend your family. But used carelessly, it harms. Respect your tools, and they will serve you well. Bjorn learns to use the knife for everyday tasks, sharpening stakes for fences, cutting rope, carving wooden pegs for construction. His fingers gain calluses. He cuts himself a few times, learning caution through pain. His father lets him make mistakes. Not dangerous ones, but small failures that teach lessons. At 8, Bjorn begins learning weapon craft seriously. His father carves him a wooden practice sword, sized for his small hands. Every evening after the day's work, father and son practice. Basic stances. How to grip the sword for power without tension. How to move your feet to keep balance. How to defend against a high strike, a low strike, a thrust. The practice is repetitive, sometimes boring. Bjorn wants to have grand fights like the warriors in stories. But Thorvald is patient and firm. A battle is won before the first blow falls, he says. Won by training, by muscle memory, by techniques practiced until they're automatic. In real combat, you don't have time to think. Your body must know what to do. So, Bjorn practices. Strike, parry, step, strike. Again and again. His arms ache. His shoulders burn. But he begins to understand. The sword becomes an extension of his arm. The movements become natural. When Bjorn is 9, his father takes him on his first hunt. They go into the forest at dawn, carrying spears and a bow. Thorvald teaches Bjorn to read signs, deer tracks in soft earth, bark stripped from trees where elk have fed, droppings still warm that mean animals are near. They move quietly, communicating with hand signals. Bjorn's young ears catch sounds his father misses. His eyes spot movement in the underbrush. They are hunting red deer, common in these forests. Thorvald wants Bjorn to make the kill. A boy's first successful hunt is a major milestone. They track a small group of deer to a clearing. Thorvald signals Bjorn to ready his spear. The boy's heart pounds. His hands sweat despite the cold. He has thrown spears at targets many times, but never at a living animal, never at something that will run, that has its own will to live. A young buck steps into view. Thorvald touches Bjorn's shoulder, giving permission. Bjorn raises the spear, as he has been taught. He judges the distance, accounts for the deer's movement, and throws. The spear flies true. It catches the deer in the chest. The animal staggers, runs a few steps, and falls. Bjorn is shocked by what he has done. The deer thrashes, dying. His father puts a hand on his shoulder and speaks quietly. You have taken life to sustain life. This is necessary, but it should never be done lightly. Thank the animal for its sacrifice. They approach the dying deer. Bjorn, at his father's direction, speaks a simple prayer. Thank you for your life, which becomes our life. May your spirit run free in the green meadows of the other world. Thorvald shows Bjorn how to field dress the animal, how to open the body cavity without puncturing the intestines, which would spoil the meat, how to remove the organs, saving the liver and heart, which are delicacies, how to prepare the carcass for transport home. It is bloody work. Bjorn's hands are red to the wrists. But his father works with efficiency and respect, never mocking the animal, never wasting any part. The hide will be tanned for leather. The meat will feed the family for a week. The bones will be carved into tools. The antlers will become handles for knives. Nothing is wasted. They carry the deer home on a pole between them. The settlement sees them approaching and children run out, excited. Bjorn's first kill. The household celebrates that evening. Bjorn gets the honor of eating the heart cooked over the fire. It is tough and strong-tasting, but he chews it with pride. His mother marks the occasion by giving him a leather pouch she has been making, decorated with simple but careful stitching. "For carrying your fire-starting materials when you're old enough to travel," she tells him. It is both a practical gift and a symbol, recognition that he is growing up, moving toward independence. As Bjorn moves through his 10th and 11th years, his world continues to expand. He is trusted to watch the sheep alone, taking them to pasture in the morning and bringing them home at evening. He spends long days on the hillside with only the animals and his thoughts for company. These solitary hours teach him self-reliance, observation, patience. He learns other skills too. His father teaches him to swim in the cold fjord waters because a Norseman must be comfortable on the sea. He learns to fish with hook and line, with nets, with spears in shallow water. He learns to identify weather signs, the color of the sky at sunset, the behavior of birds, the feel of the wind, that predict the next day's conditions. His mother continues his education in other matters. She teaches him the proper way to greet guests, to offer hospitality, to behave at feasts. She teaches him some herb lore, which plants stop bleeding, which ease pain, which bring fever down. She teaches him to recognize the signs that winter is coming, so he will know when to bring animals down from high pastures, when to finish harvesting, when to prepare for the long, dark months. The winter months are different from summer. The days are short. In deepest winter, the sun barely rises above the horizon. The family spends long hours inside, working by firelight. The women weave, sew, prepare food. The men carve, repair tools, tell stories. Evening after evening, Bjorn listens to the tales, the great cycles of the gods, the adventures of legendary heroes, the histories of his own family. His grandfather, an old man now but once a great warrior, tells of raids on England and Ireland, of battles fought, treasures won, friends lost. He shows Bjorn scars that mark his body like a map of his life. A sword cut along his ribs from a fight in Northumbria, a spear wound in his thigh from a skirmish over grazing rights, burns on his hands from pulling a friend from a burning building. These stories shape Bjorn's understanding of what it means to be a man in this world. Courage is essential, but so is loyalty. Strength matters, but so does cunning. A good death in battle is glorious, but a long life lived with honor is nothing to scorn. The stories contain contradictions, because life contains contradictions. When Bjorn is 12, something happens that will change the course of his life. A ship arrives at the settlement, not a trading vessel, but a longship, sleek and dangerous, carrying 30 warriors. They beach the ship and their leader approaches the settlement's Jarl, requesting hospitality. The Jarl grants it, as custom requires. A great feast is prepared. The visitors are given places of honor. And as the mead flows and the evening progresses, the leader of the warriors speaks of their purpose. They are gathering men for a raid on the coast of England. Rich monasteries there, poorly defended, filled with silver and gold and fine cloth. One summer of raiding could make a man wealthy. Bjorn watches his father's face as the warrior leader speaks. Thorvald is not old, only 32, but he has responsibilities. A farm to run, a family to feed. He has been on one raid in his youth, but that was before he inherited land and married. Yet Bjorn sees the look in his father's eyes, the temptation, the memory of adventure, of brotherhood with other warriors, of returning home with silver to distribute, with stories to tell. The pull of the Viking life, the raiding life, is strong. That night, after the guests have been settled in the communal hall, Bjorn overhears his parents talking. His mother is afraid, but trying not to show it. "The farm needs you," she says. "Bjorn needs you. He's not old enough yet to take on a man's full work." "I know," Thorvald says, "but this is an opportunity. If the raid succeeds, we could have silver to buy more land, more animals. We could secure Bjorn's future. A father provides for his children, doesn't he?" His mother is quiet for a long moment. Then, "A father also lives to see his children grown. Dead men provide nothing." But in the end, Thorvald decides to go. The pull is too strong. Arrangements are made. The farm will be managed by Thorvald's brother, who lives nearby. Bjorn is instructed to help his uncle, to obey him as he would his father, to be the man of the house in Thorvald's absence. The morning of departure comes too quickly. Thorvald puts on his mail shirt, iron rings laboriously linked together, inherited from his father. He takes his sword, his shield, his spear. He looks like a different person, transformed from farmer to warrior by the simple addition of war gear. He embraces his wife, kisses his younger children. Then he turns to Bjorn. "You are 12 years old," he says. "In some ways, still a child. In other ways, already a man. While I'm gone, I trust you to protect your mother and your siblings. Can you do this?" Bjorn, trying not to cry, nods. "I can." "Good. Remember what I've taught you. Work hard. Honor the gods. Be honest in your dealings. And if I don't return, if the Norns have woven my death into this journey, know that I love you, and I expect you to grow into a man who makes his ancestors proud." Now Bjorn does cry, but quietly, in a way he hopes looks manly. His father grips his shoulder once more, then walks to where the other warriors are boarding the ship. Bjorn watches with his family as the long ship pushes off from shore. The warriors row out into the fjord. The sail is raised, striped red and white, catching the morning wind. The ship moves with grace and speed, a predator on the water. It rounds the headland and disappears from view. The settlement feels emptier, quieter. 10 men have gone on the raid, leaving a noticeable gap in the community. The women and old men and children continue their work. But there is an edge of worry to everything. Will the men return rich or poor, wounded or whole, alive or dead? For Bjorn, the summer of his 12th year is the hardest he has known. His uncle is fair, but expects full work from him. Bjorn rises before dawn to tend the animals. He works in the fields, planting and weeding. He helps repair the longhouse roof where winter has damaged it. He chops firewood until his hands blister and his back aches. But he also feels himself growing stronger. His shoulders broaden, his arms develop muscle. His endurance increases. By the end of summer, he can work a full day alongside grown men without collapsing from exhaustion. His mother watches him with a mixture of pride and sadness. Her boy is becoming a man too quickly, forced by necessity into adult responsibilities. She makes sure he eats enough, tends his blisters and sore muscles, but she doesn't baby him. He is 12, old enough to bear burdens. The leaves begin to turn. Autumn comes with its urgent work, harvesting grain, slaughtering animals to salt for winter, gathering the last herbs before frost kills them. Still no word from the raiders. Ships pass occasionally, bringing news of the world, but none carry information about Thorvald's expedition. Bjorn tries not to think about it, tries to focus on work, on his responsibilities. But at night, lying in the dark, he imagines his father in battle, wonders if he is alive or dead, wonders if he will ever see him again. The first snows come. Winter settles over the land. The longship is not back. Either they have wintered elsewhere, or they are dead, or they have been delayed by weather. There is nothing to do but wait. On the winter solstice, the longest night of the year, the settlement holds a festival. They feast and make offerings to the gods, asking for the return of the sun, for the survival of the community through the dark months. Bjorn participates in the rituals, but his mind is elsewhere, counting days, calculating probabilities, hoping. 2 months into winter, on a day of bitter cold when the fjord itself has ice forming at its edges, a horn sounds from the watchtower. A ship is coming. The settlement stirs to life. Could it be the raiders returning? The ship draws closer. It is indeed a longship, but lower in the water than when it left, weighted down with cargo. A good sign. The people rush to the shore. Bjorn runs with them, his heart pounding. The ship beaches. Warriors wade ashore. Bjorn scans their faces frantically. There, his father, alive, thinner, with a new scar on his face, but alive and smiling. Thorvald sees his son and opens his arms. Bjorn crashes into him, hugging him fiercely, not caring who sees, not caring that it might not look manly. His father laughs and holds him tight. "I'm home, son. I'm home." The raid was successful. They brought back silver, fine cloth, precious objects from English monasteries and villages. Not all the warriors returned. 4 died in battle, 2 from sickness during the voyage home. But those who survived are wealthy men now by the standards of their community. That night, Thorvald empties a leather bag on the table. Silver spills out. Coins, arm rings, broken pieces of decorative metalwork. "This is ours," he says, "our future. I'm going to buy more land from the Jarl, expand our farm, ensure that when you're grown, you'll have something substantial to inherit." He pulls out something else, a silver Thor's hammer pendant on a chain. "This is for you," he says, placing it around Bjorn's neck. "You've earned it. Your uncle told me how you worked, how you took on a man's responsibilities. You've made me proud." Bjorn touches the pendant, feeling its weight, its coolness. It is the finest thing he has ever owned. But more than the silver, he treasures his father's words. "You've made me proud." What more could a son want to hear? The years between 12 and 15 pass in a pattern of work and training and gradual maturation. Bjorn continues to grow. By 14, he is as tall as his father, though not yet as filled out, still gangly in the way of young men whose bones have outpaced their muscles. His voice deepens. Hair appears on his face, though not yet enough to braid in the warrior fashion. His interests shift. Where once he was content with childish games, now he notices the girls of the settlement, particularly Astrid, the daughter of a prosperous farmer 2 valleys away. Astrid is 13, fair-haired and quick-witted. She comes to Bjorn's settlement sometimes when her father trades grain. She and Bjorn find excuses to talk. comparing notes on which sheep have lambed, discussing the weather, asking each other's opinions on trivial matters that are really not trivial at all, because what they're really doing is learning each other, seeing if they fit. The families notice, as families do. Thorvald and Astrid's father, Gunnar, have known each other for years. They discuss the possibility casually at first, then more seriously. It could be a good match. The farms are near enough for regular contact, but far enough to avoid boundary disputes. Both families are free, prosperous, honorable. The children seem to like each other. But marriage is still a year or two away. First, Bjorn must pass into manhood formally. This happens around age 15, though the exact timing depends on the boy's readiness. The father decides when his son is ready to be considered a man. Thorvald watches his son carefully. Bjorn can do a man's work. He can hunt, fight with competence if not mastery, swim, ride, navigate by stars. He shows good judgment, treats others fairly, honors the gods. He is ready. On the spring equinox of Bjorn's 15th year, Thorvald announces that his son will undergo the manhood trials. These vary between communities, but generally involve tests of courage, endurance, and skill. For Bjorn's community, the trials are these. First, spend 3 days and nights alone in the forest with only a knife, starting a fire without help, finding food and water, surviving without shelter. Second, swim across the fjord at its widest point, nearly a mile of cold water. Third, fight 3 practice bouts with experienced warriors, showing that he won't embarrass himself in battle. Bjorn prepares mentally for the trials. 3 days alone is actually easier than it sounds. He has spent many days watching sheep on distant hillsides. But there is a psychological element. No one will help him. If he fails to make fire, he will be cold. If he fails to find food, he will be hungry. If he encounters a bear or wolves, he will have only his knife and his wits. The morning comes. The community gathers to see him off. His mother embraces him, whispers a blessing. His father simply nods. This is between Bjorn and the wilderness now. Bjorn walks into the forest. Behind him, the sounds of the settlement fade. Ahead, only the whisper of wind through pine branches, the distant call of birds, the soft sound of his own breathing. He finds a good spot by a stream. Fresh water, fish possibly, defensible. He gathers materials for fire, dry moss for tinder, thin twigs that will catch easily, larger branches for fuel. He uses his knife to shave fine curls from a dry branch, creating a pile of material that will ignite from sparks. Fire starting with flint and steel requires patience. Strike after strike, sparks fly into the tinder. Most die immediately. But eventually one catches, a tiny glowing ember. Bjorn blows on it gently, coaxing it to spread. The moss begins to smoke. A small flame appears. He adds the finest twigs, then slightly larger ones, building the fire gradually until it burns steadily. Success. Fire means warmth, safety, the ability to cook food. It is the foundation of survival. For food, Bjorn fashions a fish trap from woven saplings. He sets it in the stream weighted with rocks. He gathers berries, though it is early in the season and they are not abundant. He finds edible plants his mother taught him to recognize. He will not feast, but he will not starve. The first night is the hardest. Without shelter, the cold seeps into him despite the fire. Strange sounds in the darkness make him grip his knife. The wilderness at night is alive with movement, with calls, with rustling. But nothing approaches the fire. Predators are wary of flames. By the second day, Bjorn has fallen into a rhythm. Check the fish trap. 2 small trout, enough for a meal. Tend the fire. Gather more firewood. explore the immediate area, learning the land. He finds animal tracks, follows them, observes. A deer trail leading to a mineral lick. Evidence of a fox den. Marks where a bear has scratched a tree, though the scratches are old. He thinks about his life. About his father's raid and his safe return. About Astrid and the possibility of marriage. About the farm he will inherit, the children he might have. The cycle continuing. He thinks about death. Not with fear, but with acceptance. Everyone dies. The question is how you live and how you are remembered. The 3 days pass. On the morning of the 4th day, Bjorn walks back to the settlement. He is hungry, tired, dirty, but he has succeeded. The community sees him emerge from the forest and knows he has passed the first trial. He is given a day to rest and eat. Then comes the second trial, the swim. The fjord is brutally cold, even in spring. The crossing is nearly a mile. Men have died attempting it, from cold, from cramps, from exhaustion. Bjorn stands on the shore, looking at the far side. His father stands beside him. The secret is to pace yourself, Thorvald says. Don't rush. Steady strokes. If you feel cramping, roll to your back and float for a moment. The cold is your enemy. Don't let it make you panic. Bjorn strips to bare skin. The community watches from the shore. Some to honor him, some to rescue him if necessary. He wades into the water. The cold is shocking. It steals his breath, makes his muscles clench. He forces himself to keep moving, to start swimming, stroke after stroke. The far shore seems to get no closer. His arms burn, his legs feel heavy. The cold penetrates deep into his core. He wants to stop, to turn back, but turning back means failure, means remaining a child in the eyes of the community. He focuses on rhythm, pull with the arms, kick with the legs, breathe, pull, kick, breathe. Don't think about the cold, don't think about the distance, just the next stroke, and the next, and the next. Halfway across, his left leg cramps. Pain shoots through his calf. He wants to cry out, but saves his breath. He rolls to his back as his father taught him, floating, working the muscle with his hands until the cramp releases. Then he turns back to his front and continues swimming. The far shore grows gradually closer. His strokes are weaker now, less efficient. But he is making progress. The trees on the far shore become distinct individuals instead of a green blur. He can see the rocks on the beach. His hand touches bottom. He can stand, though his legs barely support him. He staggers forward, falls to his knees on the shore, gasps for air. He made it. He crossed the fjord. On the far shore, his people are cheering. He raises a hand weakly in acknowledgement, too exhausted to do more. Someone from the community who came around by land wraps him in furs and helps him warm up. He has succeeded again. The third trial, combat, happens 2 days later, after he has recovered from the swim. 3 experienced warriors have volunteered to fight him with practice weapons. He doesn't need to win. He is 15. They are seasoned fighters. He only needs to show competence, courage, and control. The first opponent is a young warrior named Eric, only 22, but already blooded in 3 raids. They face each other with wooden swords and shields. The bout begins. Eric attacks immediately, testing Bjorn's defense. Bjorn parries, gives ground, absorbs the pressure. He is not trying to win. That would be presumptuous. He is showing that he can defend himself, that he has learned the lessons his father taught. Eric increases the pace. Strike, parry, strike. The wooden swords crack against shields. Bjorn's arms ache from the impacts, but he maintains his defense, even manages a few counters. After 2 minutes, Eric steps back and nods. Sufficient. Bjorn has passed. The second opponent is older, more experienced, more cunning. He uses feints, tricks, sudden changes of angle. Bjorn struggles more here. He takes a hard blow to the ribs that will leave a bruise, another to his shoulder. But he doesn't panic. He adapts, starts to read the patterns, even lands a solid strike on his opponent's shield. The third opponent is his own father. This surprises Bjorn, but perhaps it shouldn't. Thorvald wants to see for himself what his son can do. Father and son circle each other. Thorvald attacks, but not at full strength. He is testing, teaching even now. They fight for several minutes. Bjorn knows he cannot defeat his father, but he gives everything he has. He uses every technique he has learned. He even manages to slip past his father's guard once, landing a light touch on Thorvald's shoulder. Thorvald smiles, calls halt to the bout, steps forward and embraces his son. "Well done," he says quietly. "You are ready." That evening, the community gathers for the formal recognition. Bjorn stands before the assembly. The Jarl presides, though this is Thorvald's moment, really. "Bjorn Thorvaldsson has completed the trials," Thorvald announces. "He has survived alone in the wilderness. He has conquered the fjord. He has proven his skill in combat. He is no longer a boy. From this day forward, he is a man, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails." The Jarl confirms. "Let it be known that Bjorn Thorvaldsson is recognized as a man in this community. He may speak at the thing. He may own property. He may marry. He may fight in the shield wall. His oath is binding. His word is his bond." Bjorn feels the weight of the moment. Something has changed irrevocably. He is a man now, in the eyes of his people, in the eyes of the gods. There is no going back to childhood. His father gives him a sword, not the practice sword he has used for years, but a real weapon. Not new, but well made, inherited from Thorvald's uncle who died with no sons. The blade is pattern-welded steel, the hilt wrapped in leather, the pommel a simple iron ball. It is a warrior's weapon. "This sword has tasted blood," Thorvald says. "Use it wisely. Defend your family, defend your honor, but never draw it in anger or haste. A blade once drawn demands to be used. Make certain your cause is just before steel leaves sheath." Bjorn accepts the sword, draws it carefully. The blade gleams in the firelight. He can feel the balance, the weight. This is no toy. This is death-made metal. He slides it back into the scabbard with reverence. The feast that follows is generous. Neighbors have contributed food and drink. There is mutton, pork, fish, bread, cheese, and endless quantities of ale and mead. Stories are told, songs are sung. Bjorn is congratulated by everyone, embraced by relatives, approved by elders, and Astrid is there, with her family. She catches his eye across the hall and smiles. Later, when the formality has relaxed and people are moving about, they find a moment to speak privately in a shadowed corner. "So you're a man now," she says, teasing, but also serious. "I suppose I am," Bjorn replies, suddenly shy. "My father has spoken to your father," she says, "about the future." "I know," Bjorn says. "What do you think about it?" She considers. "I think you're kind. I think you're brave. I think you'd make a good husband. Then I think," Bjorn says carefully, "that we might have a future." She smiles and briefly touches his hand. That small touch carries more weight than the sword on his hip. It is a promise, a possibility, a future taking shape. The betrothal is formalized over the following months. The families meet multiple times to discuss terms. There is a bride price to be negotiated. Thorvald will pay Astrid's father in silver, livestock, and land rights. There is also a dowry. Astrid will bring household goods, some animals of her own, and a portion of her father's wealth. The negotiations are friendly but serious. Marriage is not just about the couple, but about allying families, merging resources, establishing obligations. When terms are agreed, hands are shaken, drinks are shared, and the betrothal is announced publicly at the Thing. The wedding is set for the following summer, after the planting is done, but before harvest. This gives time for preparation. Astrid and her mother work on her bridal clothing. Bjorn helps his father expand the longhouse. His bride will need her own space for weaving and household management. When summer comes, guests arrive from surrounding settlements. The wedding will be a major event. Astrid's family arrives the day before, their cart loaded with her dowry goods. She looks beautiful but nervous. Bjorn feels the same, excited but daunted by the enormity of what is about to happen. The ceremony itself is simpler than later Christian weddings will be, but meaningful in its own way. It takes place outdoors, before witnesses. The couple exchanges rings, simple silver bands. They make their vows before the gods and the community. I, Bjorn Thorvaldsen, take Astrid Gunnarsdottir as my wife. I swear to provide for her, protect her, honor her, all the days of my life. I, Astrid Gunnarsdottir, take Bjorn Thorvaldsen as my husband. I swear to manage his household, bear his children, support him all the days of my life. They drink from the same horn of mead, symbolizing their union. They clasp hands over a sword, Bjorn's sword, representing his role as protector. The community witnesses and approves. They are married. The feast that follows is the largest the settlement has seen in years. 3 sheep and a pig have been slaughtered. There is bread, cheese, preserved fruits, honey cakes. The ale and mead flow generously. Thorvald, as father of the groom, distributes gifts to important guests. Silver to the Jarl, useful items to relatives, small tokens to friends. Music is provided by a visiting skald, a poet-musician who travels between settlements, trading songs for food and shelter. He sings of love and heroes, of gods and giants. He composes a short verse honoring the new couple, which makes Astrid blush and Bjorn grin. As evening deepens, there are traditional games and contests, races, wrestling matches, tests of strength. The men compete vigorously, showing off for the women. Bjorn participates but doesn't win much. He's only 16, still growing into his full strength. When night falls, the couple is escorted to their chamber, a partitioned section of the longhouse, newly prepared. The community makes bawdy jokes, as is traditional, then leaves them alone. Astrid and Bjorn sit on their new bed covered in furs that were part of her dowry. They are both virgins, nervous about what comes next. But they like each other. They have chosen this. They reach for each other tentatively, learning, discovering. Their wedding night is not perfectly smooth. There is awkwardness, some pain for Astrid, but there is also tenderness, and the beginning of a bond that will deepen over years. The years that follow establish the pattern of Bjorn's adult life. He works the farm with his father, learning the deeper knowledge that separates a competent worker from a skilled farmer. When to plant each crop for best yield, how to judge which animals to breed and which to cull, how to maintain tools so they last, how to plan for bad years, setting aside seed and food against possible famine. Astrid proves to be an excellent household manager. She organizes the thralls efficiently, supervises food preparation and preservation, manages the textile production that provides clothing and trade goods. She is firm but fair. The household runs smoothly under her direction. 9 months after the wedding, she gives birth to their first child, a daughter which disappoints no one. Girls are valued, both for the work they do and for the bride price they will eventually bring. They name her Sigrid, after Bjorn's grandmother. Bjorn's father watches his son navigate the challenges of young fatherhood with satisfaction. Thorvald is 40 now, still vigorous but beginning to think about legacy, about the future when Bjorn will inherit the farm fully. 2 years later, Astrid gives birth to a son. Bjorn is overjoyed. They name the boy Thorvald after his grandfather. The old man is deeply honored. He holds his namesake carefully, this tiny life that carries his name forward into the future. Bjorn is 20 now. He has a wife, 2 children, responsibilities. But he is also restless. The farm is secure. His father is still strong and doesn't need him every moment. When the opportunity arises, Bjorn decides to go Viking. A jarl from a neighboring valley is organizing a raid on Ireland. He needs strong men with their own weapons. Bjorn discusses it with Astrid. She is afraid but understands. A successful raid could bring wealth that would secure their children's future. Besides, going Viking is what young men do. It would be stranger if he never went. Thorvald approves. "I went when I was your age," he says. "Came back wealthier and wiser. Just remember, courage is good, but caution keeps you alive. Don't take foolish risks. No silver is worth dying for." So Bjorn prepares. He cleans and sharpens his sword, repairs his shield, borrows mail armor from his father. He cannot afford his own yet. He says goodbye to his wife and children, embracing them fiercely, promising to return. The long ship carries 40 warriors. They row out of the fjord and into the open sea. Bjorn has never been so far from home. The land disappears behind them. There is only water and sky, the creak of the ship, the rhythm of oars, the salt spray. They sail for 3 days, camping on islands at night. Then the coast of Ireland appears. Green hills, stone monasteries, scattered settlements, rich land, poorly defended. The raiders see opportunity. They beach the ship in a hidden cove and wait for darkness. When night falls, they approach a monastery known to hold silver. The walls are low, made for privacy, not defense. There are no warriors, only monks dedicated to prayer and study. The raiders go over the wall easily. They move through the buildings quickly, seizing anything valuable. Silver chalices, golden crosses, illuminated manuscripts that some chieftain might prize. Monks who resist are killed. Those who submit are bound and left. Bjorn participates, but takes no pleasure in it. The monks are not warriors. They die without glory. He kills one man who charges him with a staff, a brave monk defending his home, and feels only a hollow satisfaction. The man fell easily, unprepared for violence. Where is the honor in killing someone who never had a chance? But he takes his share of the plunder: a silver arm ring, a bronze bowl, some coins. This is why he came. This is how wealth is made in this world, through courage and force, taking from those weaker than yourself. They return to the ship before dawn and sail away. The raid was successful. No warriors were lost. The ship rides low with treasure. The Jarl is pleased, but on the voyage home, a storm catches them. The sea rises in walls of water. The ship pitches and rolls. Waves crash over the sides. The men bail frantically, but water pours in faster than they can remove it. This is the test that separates those who survive the raiding life from those who die young. Not combat. Combat is brief. But the sea, the weather, the 1,000 ways that voyages can go wrong. The ship survives, but barely. They lose some of their plunder overboard. 2 men are washed into the sea and drown before they can be recovered. When they finally reach the Norwegian coast, every man aboard is exhausted, soaked, grateful to be alive. Bjorn returns home with his silver and his stories. Astrid embraces him with relief that he survived, and anger that he took the risk. Their children barely remember him. He's been gone 4 months. His daughter Sigrid is shy around this bearded stranger who claims to be her father. But Bjorn has learned something important. He is not suited to the Viking life. The raid brought silver, yes, but at a cost to his soul. The killing without honor, the constant danger, the months away from family. Some men thrive on it. He does not. He focuses instead on farming, on family, on building a good life in this one place. His father, seeing Bjorn's decision, approves. The world needs farmers as much as warriors, Thorvald says. More, perhaps. Warriors take, farmers create. There is honor in both, but different kinds of honor. The years accumulate. Bjorn and Astrid have more children. Another son, another daughter. Twins who die in infancy, a common tragedy. A final son born when Bjorn is 30. The farm prospers. Thorvald grows old and eventually dies peacefully in his sleep at 63, an impressive age. Bjorn inherits fully, becoming the head of the family. He attends the thing regularly now, participating in community decisions. He settles disputes between neighbors. He advises younger men. He becomes what his father was, a respected Carl, a pillar of the community. His children grow and leave to make their own lives. Sigrid marries a farmer from a distant valley. Thorvald, the younger, goes Viking for several years, then settles down with raid wealth and a wife. The other children find their own paths. Farming, trading. One daughter becomes a skilled weaver whose work is prized throughout the region. Astrid ages gracefully, her beauty transforming into a different kind of handsomeness. Her hair goes grey, then white. Her hands become gnarled with arthritis, but her mind stays sharp, her will strong. She manages the household into her 60s, finally delegating responsibilities to their youngest son's wife. Bjorn too grows old. His beard goes grey, his joints ache in winter. His sword hand, broken in a fence-building accident years ago, never quite works right again. But he has lived long by the standards of his people. He has seen grandchildren born. He has earned respect. Now, at 61, he feels death approaching. Not dramatically. No mortal wound, no sudden illness. Just a slow fading, a gradual weakening. He has less appetite, less energy. He sleeps more and accomplishes less. He knows what this means. The Norns are preparing to cut his thread. He accepts this without fear. He has lived well. He has raised a family. He has honored the gods. If he is to die in bed rather than battle, so be it. Valhalla is for those who die with weapons in hand, but there are other halls in the afterlife. Hell's realm is not the Christian hell of torment, but simply the place where most people go. A grey, quiet existence, neither punishment nor reward. Still, there is a tradition. If a man is dying slowly and wishes to enter Valhalla, he can take a spear in hand as death approaches, thus dying armed, technically in battle against his final enemy. Bjorn considers this. His children urge him to do it. They want their father in Odin's hall. But Bjorn is not certain. He has killed men, yes. But he was never truly a warrior. Would Odin want him in the Hall of Heroes? Would he belong there? he decides differently. "I lived as a farmer," he tells his gathered family. "I will die as a farmer. The gods know my deeds. Let them judge where I belong." So his sword lies beside him, but not in his hand. A compromise, perhaps. An acknowledgement of both aspects of his life. The warrior he briefly was, the farmer he mostly was. Astrid sits beside him, holding his hand. After 40 years together, there is little left to say. Their life speaks for itself. Bjorn's breathing becomes labored. His children keep vigil. His youngest son, who will inherit the farm, sits close, ready to assume the burden of headship. As the sun sets on a clear autumn evening, Bjorn takes his last breath. There is no drama to it. He simply breathes out and does not breathe in again. Astrid feels the moment in the hand she holds. She closes her eyes and whispers a prayer to Freya, asking the goddess to guide her husband's spirit. The family mourns, but not extravagantly. Bjorn lived a long life. He died with family around him. He is fortunate in his ending. The loud wailing, the dramatic grief, those are for the young who die before their time, for warriors fallen in battle, for children taken by disease. Preparations for burial begin immediately. The body must be washed, dressed in good clothing, prepared for the grave. Bjorn is dressed in his best tunic and trousers. His sword is placed beside him, not in his hand, as he requested, but near enough to show he was a man of worth. His favorite drinking horn, a gift from his wife decades ago, is included. Some bread and dried fish, food for the journey to the other world. The grave is dug on a rise overlooking the farm. This land has been Bjorn's life. It is fitting that he should rest here, watching over it forever. The grave is deep, lined with stones. A wooden chamber is constructed within it, a final house for the dead. Bjorn's body is carried to the grave in procession. The entire community attends. He was well liked, respected. People come to honor him and support his family. The body is placed in the chamber, surrounded by his grave goods, his sword, his drinking horn, tools he used in life, a small carving of Thor for protection. His youngest son speaks. Bjorn Thorvaldsson lived 61 winters. He was a good father, a faithful husband, a fair neighbor. He worked this land and made it prosper. He raised children who honor him. He is gone but not forgotten. His name lives on. His deeds live on. May the gods receive him kindly. Others speak too, sharing memories. The time Bjorn mediated a bitter dispute between neighbors and found a solution both could accept. The time he gave grain to a family whose crops failed, asking no repayment. His skill at training young horses. His terrible singing voice which made everyone laugh. The small kindnesses that made up a life. The chamber is sealed with a wooden roof. Earth is piled on top. Stones are arranged in the shape of a ship. A grave marker that shows Bjorn was freeborn, a person of status. The community helps with the work. Building a burial mound is a communal responsibility. When the mound is complete, a funeral feast is held. This is not a sad occasion, but a celebration of life. Bjorn would want his family to feast, to tell stories, to laugh. Death is part of life. Those who remain must continue living. Ale and mead flow freely. Food is abundant. People tell Bjorn stories, some true, some exaggerated, some invented but spiritually accurate. The skald who performed at Bjorn's wedding, now an old man himself, composes a verse honoring the deceased. It is not a grand poem like those written for kings and heroes, but it is heartfelt and accurate. Astrid sits quietly, surrounded by her children and grandchildren. She has lost her companion of 40 years. The grief is deep, but so is the gratitude. They had a good life together. They raised a family. They grew old side by side. How many people can say as much? In Norse belief, the dead remain present for a time. Bjorn's spirit lingers in the mound, in the farm, watching over his family. Eventually, he will journey to whatever afterlife awaits him. But for now, he is still part of the community, just in a different form. Astrid tends his grave faithfully. She brings offerings on important days, food, drink, small gifts. She talks to him sometimes, telling him news of the family, the farm, the community. It comforts her to feel his presence nearby. She lives another 5 years after Bjorn's death, growing increasingly frail. When she finally dies, at 67, she is buried beside him. Their grave mounds sit side by side on the rise, overlooking the farm they built together. Their children continue the farm. Their grandchildren grow and have children of their own. The cycle continues. Bjorn and Astrid become ancestors, remembered in stories, invoked in prayers, part of the foundation on which future generations build. This was the life of a Norse person in the 9th century. Not a hero of legend, not a famous warrior whose name echoes through sagas, just an ordinary man who lived an ordinary life, who was born in blood and pain, who was named and claimed by his family, who learned the skills of survival, who came of age through trials, who married and raised children, who worked the land, who aged and died and was mourned, and yet, in its ordinariness, Bjorn's life contained everything important: love, work, family, community, honor, courage when needed, kindness when possible, a connection to the land and the gods and the turning of the seasons. The Norse did not build monuments that would last for millennia. Their longhouses rotted. Their graves were plowed under. Their very names faded from memory. But their way of life, their values, their stories, their courage, those survived. They come down to us through the sagas, through archaeological evidence, through genetic inheritance, through the English words we still use that come from Old Norse. When we say husband, or window, or sky, we speak Norse words. When we name Thursday after Thor, or Friday after Freya, we remember their gods. When we admire courage and loyalty and plain speaking, we echo their values. Bjorn lived and died 1,000 years ago. His bones are dust. His farm is long gone. But in telling his story, we make him live again. We remember that every life, no matter how ordinary it seems, contains the full human experience. Birth and death, love and loss, joy and sorrow, courage and fear. The Vikings believed in fate, that your thread was woven before you were born, that your ending was written in the pattern. But they also believed in choice, that you could face your fate with courage or cowardice, with honor or shame. The ending might be fixed, but the journey was yours to make. Bjorn made his journey, from the darkness of the birthing chamber to the darkness of the burial mound, from helpless infant to respected elder, from student to teacher, from son to father to grandfather. Each phase had its proper time, its proper lessons, its proper place in the pattern. This was the cycle of life in the Norse world. This was the way of the folk, and though the details might differ, some died young in battle, some lived long in peace, some were wealthy, some were poor. The fundamental journey was the same for all. We are born, we grow, we work, we love, we age, we die. We are remembered or forgotten. The Norse cosmos itself was not eternal. They believed that even the gods would die one day, in the final battle of Ragnarok. The world would burn, the sun would go dark, the great serpent would rise from the sea, everything would end. But after the ending, a new beginning. The world would rise again from the waters, green and fertile. 2 humans would survive, sheltered in a tree, and from them new generations would come. Even in the ending, the promise of renewal. Even in death, the possibility of life. This cyclical view of time shaped how they lived. Nothing lasts forever, so live fully now. Make your mark. Be generous. Be brave. Love fiercely. Fight when you must. Make peace when you can. And when your time comes, face it without flinching, knowing you have lived as well as you could. Bjorn Thorvaldsson did not reach Valhalla. His death was not glorious, but perhaps he reached somewhere just as good. The memory of his family, the continuation of his line, the land that bears the mark of his labor. Perhaps that is immortality enough. On quiet evenings in that valley in Norway, when the wind blows down from the mountains and the fjord lies calm and silver, you might imagine you can still feel their presence. All the generations who lived and worked and loved and died in that place, Bjorn and Astrid, Thorvald and his wife, Sigrid and her children, all of them, part of the land now, part of the story. The longhouses are gone, the fields have changed, even the shape of the coastline has shifted with time, but the mountains remain, the fjord remains. The northern lights still dance green across the winter sky. The cycle continues. And perhaps that is the real Valhalla, not a golden hall where warriors feast eternally, but this, being remembered, having lived a life that mattered to someone, having left the world a little better, or at least no worse than you found it, having loved and been loved, having been part of the great chain of human existence that stretches back to the beginning and forward to the ending. Bjorn was born into a harsh world. He lived in dangerous times. His life was shaped by forces beyond his control. The climate, the soil, the raids, the politics of jarls and kings. But within those constraints, he made choices. He chose kindness when he could. He chose courage when he had to. He chose to love his wife, raise his children, work his land, honor his gods. Those choices mattered. They shaped the lives around him. His children became who they were partly because of who he was. His community was stronger for his presence. The land was more productive for his labor. In the end, is that not what any life is about? We are not here to live forever. We are here to live well according to our lights, within our circumstances. We are here to care for each other, to create something of value, to face our challenges with what courage we can muster. The Vikings understood this. They knew that fame and glory were fleeting, that even the greatest hero would eventually be forgotten. But they strove anyway. They built anyway. They loved anyway. Not because they believed it would last forever, but because it mattered now, in this moment, in this life. Bjorn Thorvaldsson's story is over. He lived his span of years. He played his part in the great pattern. Now he rests in the earth, his molecules scattered and recycled, part of the endless transformation of matter and energy that the Norse called the world tree. But his story lives on in the telling. And in that sense, he has achieved a kind of immortality after all. We remember him. We imagine his life. We learn from his choices. He becomes part of our story, just as we will become part of someone else's. The sun rises over the valley where Bjorn lived, the same sun that rose on his first morning, on his last morning, on all the mornings in between. The light touches the mountains, paints the clouds in shades of rose and gold, glints off the cold water of the fjord. In the settlement below, or what was once a settlement, now perhaps just a name on a map, a few lumps in the earth that might be the remains of longhouses, the cycle continues. People are born, people die, the wheel turns, and somewhere perhaps, in whatever realm awaits the honored dead, Bjorn Thorvaldsen sits beside a fire. Astrid is there with him. His parents are there. Old friends and family gathered again. They tell stories, they laugh. They remember the world they knew, the lives they lived. And when the storytelling is done, when the fire burns low, they rest, content, at peace, their journey complete. This is the way of all things. We come from darkness into light. We live our days whatever number we are given. We return to darkness, but hopefully with the knowledge that we mattered, that we were loved, that we did our best, from birth to death, from the first breath to the last, from the midwife's hands to the grave mound, from helpless infant to wise elder. This is the journey. This is the cycle. This is the life of a Viking, and of every person who has ever lived. The story is told. The fire burns low, the night deepens. Rest now, the journey is complete.